Very good morning to you from wherever you're watching us from. This is the Morning Drift, and of course, as you can see, I'm smiling. Maybe I'm smiling because I don't consume tobacco and my teeth is as white as you can see. Now today is World No Tobacco Day, and according to statistics, at least 2.5 million Kenyans do consume tobacco. Now this year's theme is We Need Food, Not Tobacco. Question is, what are the steps we are making as a country? What are some of the key decisions we need to make as a country to ensure that we eradicate the consumption of tobacco here in the country? And joining me this morning is Mr. Achieng Otieno from the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance. A very good morning to you, sir.
Thank you and good morning.
Thank you. I'm doing okay. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Awesome.
Now, it being World No Tobacco Day, like I've said, around at least 2.5 million Kenyans are consuming tobacco. Now, as an alliance, Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance, what are the statistics on your side in comparison to last year? Because each and every year, according to the statistics that I have, is that the percentage has been decreasing in terms of people who are consuming tobacco. But in my own opinion, it is at a very slow rate. So as we speak today, as we mark World No Tobacco Day, what are the statistics of people who are consuming tobacco in the country?
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. And today we are excited because we are commemorating the World No Tobacco Day. And the statistics that we do have, unfortunately, it's statistics that are a bit outdated, because both from the government and generally we are looking at the figures that you are talking about, the 2.5, is actually drawn from the adult tobacco survey, what we call GATS, Global Adult Tobacco Survey, which shows that 2.5 adults smoke. When you look at even the GYTS, that is the GATS is a data that came out in 2014. We also have the GYTS, the Global Youth Tobacco Survey, which also shows that the number of young people who are taking up smoking going up. And unfortunately, the statistics sort of vary between men and women. You find that more men are smoking, and women are also trying to catch up. They're trying to catch up with the vice. But when you look at the recent report that was released by the WHO, it also indicates that the rates of smoking is going down. But again, like you rightly said, it's at a very slow rate. Particularly when you look at countries that are in the low and middle income countries like Kenya and majority of the countries in Africa, you'd find that the numbers are sort of dwindling there. Yeah, this could be attributed to the young population, and it could also be attributed to the tactics being employed by the tobacco companies.
Well, just like you said, because according to the same statistics, of the 2.5 million adults in the country who are consuming tobacco, 19.1% are men.
Yes.
And women are around 4.1%
yes.
of the 2.5 million.
Yes.
So it's quite an alarming statistic.
Okay.
You've spoken about the youth.
Yes.
As an alliance, and even the country at large, the government, what needs to be done? Is it just awareness? Because we cannot be talking about awareness and sensitization year in, year out.
True.
What more can be done to ensure that the youth are, not enticed to consume tobacco?
Okay. Well, the importance of awareness cannot be overemphasized, because most people tend to adapt this kind of vices out of either especially the young people who begin using these vices. They start them at a very young and very innocent age, meaning that it's an age where information, they don't really know the impact or the consequences that come after this. But then apart from that, we also push for very strong policies, policy framework that is able to help to aid different aspects of tobacco control to support in terms of protecting the young people from getting exposures and even from getting initiated into the vice. So by that there are laws in place that have been enacted by our parliament. We have the Tobacco Control of 2007, Tobacco Control Act of 2007. We also have the Tobacco Control Regulations, which primarily the acts and the regulations have actually been borrowed from the global framework, which is WHOFCTC, World Health Organization Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, which is a global treaty that has been assented to by different parties, by parties within countries that have actually signed and ratified. And in Kenya, we've actually made it part of our law. According to the Constitution, it states that any global treaty that we assent to becomes part of our law. So by assenting to that, and also by domesticating it through the Act, there are quite a number of provisions that sort of protect exposure to secondhand smoke. The passive smokers are also at risk, so they also have to be protected by the law. Young people, because we understand that most people start smoking or start getting in touch with tobacco at a very young age. So the law protects the minors from access to that and even just being exposed to it. So basically there's a law provision that does that.
Okay, safe to say the young ones can be, protected from consuming tobacco.
Yes.
But through unscrupulous means, sometimes they end up in the hands of, minors. There are legislations, like you've said.
Yeah.
But now, let's talk about taxation. Is there a need to increase taxation on tobacco products to discourage consumption?
We'll still refer to the global data and data that has actually been researched and approved globally, that pricing and taxing measures are the most effective ways of cutting consumption, reducing demand, and also basically when you look at taxation from the tobacco control perspective, it is actually a win-win perspective. One, it helps in reducing the number of tobacco users, which is a very big win for the government, because tobacco accounts for a number of health impacts. You're looking at the burden of dealing with the consequences. Because, like, for instance, how much is it to treat cancer? It costs the government a lot of money to deal with the consequences. So by increasing taxation, one, we'll be dealing with cutting down the demand for tobacco, cutting down the consumption, which is one major positive thing that we are looking at. Secondly, it is also a way to support the government in generating revenue, because for instance, you look at the amount of money that is being used to mitigate the effects of tobacco. The government uses a lot of money, because now the government has to invest in cancer centers, the government has to invest in medication, the government has to invest in quite a number of things, in order to support the healthcare and most of the consequences that come as a result of tobacco use.
Okay, fair enough. Apart from taxation and legislations,
yes,
the government has also been keen on trying to lure tobacco farmers away from farming tobacco and getting into alternative crops. As an alliance, do you believe that is the way to go? And having it in mind that as well, some of these farmers do farm tobacco as a cash crop to earn a living. So is that one of the ways that we can ensure that we reduce the consumption of tobacco in the country?
That is one major way. And in fact, according to the Ministry of Agriculture, tobacco is actually not listed as a cash crop. It's actually not listed as a cash crop. owing to the negative effects that it has in health, environment, generally on the society. So for us as an alliance, we find that it's actually long overdue. And we actually thank the government for having taken this bold step. And we thank the global organizations like World Health Organization, WFP, for teaming up with government just to support farmers in venturing into what we call economically viable alternatives. Because by and large, when you look at tobacco growing is not beneficial to the farmer. It's only beneficial to the tobacco companies or tobacco industry. Why do I say that? Because when you look at most of the tobacco growing areas, these are some of the areas that are the poorest. You look at the same areas are some of the areas where they are food insecure. These are some of the areas where they suffer some strange diseases like the green tobacco disease. It's which is a disease that is predominantly in the tobacco growing areas, and that comes from the getting into contact with the tobacco leaf and the chemicals that are used to ensure that these products grow. Why are they food insecure? Because most of these areas, tobacco is one of those crops that is a bit selfish. Yeah, it's a crop that does not allow other crops to grow with it. So farmers are only forced to grow tobacco at the expense of growing food. So you realize that once the tobacco plant has been harvested, there remains a gap where these families are not able to feed themselves. And apart from that, we're also looking at the rate of child labor. These tobacco growing areas are predominantly the areas that are said to have a lot of child labor, and children don't go to school. We are also looking at the same areas as the areas where pregnant women, unfortunately, they suffer a lot of miscarriages. So when you total all the effects that we are talking about, tobacco becomes a very disadvantageous crop for the farmers in this area. So the question of the farmers moving to other alternatives becomes a very ripe discussion, where how do we get farmers out of growing tobacco? And that's why the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization came up with the initiative Tobacco-Free Farms. And we've seen over 1,000 farmers who are already reaping the benefit. Because initially, the argument was tobacco is lucrative, it's paying them. But now that the farmers are being introduced to the iron-rich beans, which they can use them for food, they can also use them for business. They can also use them for when you grow food crops, animals also get fodder. So it's more like a 360 sort of support for farmers to live healthier lives and also to live economically free from the burdens of tobacco. And in this case, when you're even looking at the broader market, assuming we have like 90% of farmers from Migori moving to, for instance, just the beans farming, we already have the ready market. WFP is part of the project, and we know what WFP does. So they can buy these things from the farmers at very good rates, and then take them to places where there is need. So it's a move that we really loud, and as an alliance, we actually continue raising more awareness and encouraging more farmers to actually jump into the ship.
Now, from where you said, as an alliance,
yes,
what has been achieved so far in the fight against consumption of tobacco?
There has been a lot that has been achieved. We'll first of all start from everything else has to be pegged on legislation.
Yes.
There has to be a legal framework of operation. So in 2004, the government of Kenya made a very bold move of joining the world in the fight against tobacco epidemic. It's a global fight. It's not just a Kenyan fight. And the government of Kenya signed and ratified the World Health Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. That was a very big step. Kenya was among the first countries to assent to that. And then after that, in 2007, we domesticated the framework, just like I said. So we got our own act, which is the Tobacco Control Act of 2007, which was also a very bold step, and it was a tough fight, because the unfortunate thing about all these things is that when you're advocating for this, when you're pushing for life-saving policies like the Tobacco Control Act, there is an opponent. There's always the tobacco industry, which tries to fight such policies because they don't want them to be in place, because they know this is going to affect their business. For us, the main concern is, first of all, you need a healthy nation for any business to thrive. But on the contrary, tobacco plant is what causes unhealthy society. So apart from the legislation that we've had in place, in 2014, the Ministry of Health also came up with the Tobacco Control Regulation, which are meant to strengthen certain provision of the Tobacco Control Act. Those are some of the legal successes that we've made. In 2017, we had the shisha ban, because the shisha was also another a way of consuming tobacco that was becoming a menace. And there we allowed the government, because we raised a lot of noise, and the government listened, and they banned shisha. Then there are also other legal steps that the government is making. Now, apart from the legal ones, for those of us who are a bit of advanced in years, will realize that there was a time that the tobacco industry were just advertising left, right, and center. But nowadays, you don't see those advertisements, courtesy of the Tobacco Control Act.
Exactly what I was coming to.
Yes.
You've talked about companies, tobacco companies,
yes,
countering you because for them, they want to thrive in the business industry.
Yes.
Can we introduce standardized packaging as a way of discouraging consumption of, tobacco? Because most of the time, we know there are, warnings on the packaging of the, tobacco.
Yes.
But still, you can say it is to very little effect. So can we introduce standardized packaging? Maybe if you guys, in conjunction with other, maybe the government and other, people in the industry, push for clean packages.
Okay.
Of if the coverings of whatever is being packaged, whatever the tobacco is being packaged on, to be clean, so that at least from there, is that a way of that you guys can use to discourage consumption of tobacco? Yeah,
that is one way. And I'm even glad that you pointed it out, because it's a direction that the entire world is going to. And I don't believe that Kenya would want to be left behind, because we've started with the pictorial health warnings, because when you look at the cigarette packs, they do have pictures. But we feel that the next move that the government should take is actually on plain packaging, because what we are realizing is that tobacco industry or tobacco companies are using these packets as a way of marketing their products, and we want to discourage users of this product as much as possible, because they're not being told the truth about these products. You understand? So when we embrace plain packaging, one, it will not be easier for these packaging to be used as marketing tool or as advertisement tools, and it will actually make it easier for users to interact with the information that is there, and actually get in touch with the likely or the possible effects of using these products. So it's a good move, and it's a move that I think as a country we need to move very fast towards. Yeah.
Now, finally, as we wrap up this conversation, Mr. Otieno, there are over 6,000 tobacco-related deaths every year, and 8 million globally. Now, according to statistics, 95% of tobacco smokers have tried quitting, but they haven't, quit yet. What are you as an alliance and other, the government and all that, doing to ensure that you can get these guys over the line and, of course, quit tobacco smoking fully?
I'm even happier that you pointed out that there are number of attempts, and we would want to laud the attempts to the kind of awareness that we've been able to raise. But apart from that, we are working very closely with the Ministry of Health, who recently, in 2017, launched the guideline to support cessation, and we are also working very closely with NACADA. And NACADA, the World No Tobacco Day of I think last year was on committing to quit. They came up with a quit line, which is meant, which the public are free to call. It's a toll-free line. They can call and get support. Now, apart from that, we are also trying to work very closely with the government to ensure that all public hospitals, we do have cessation counselors and people who are able to support people who want to quit. So for us, we are the fight is still on, and as an alliance, we're trying as much as possible to ensure that all rehabilitation centers, the government entities, have sufficient facilities to support people who want to quit. So we laud the kind of cooperation and working relationship that we have with the government, and we also laud the move that the partnership between government, WHO, and different entities like we are trying to put in place to ensure that people who are trying to quit get a safe landing and they're able to walk the steps to the point where they quit.
Well, just so you know, this World No Tobacco celebrations will be held today in Migori County. 5 seconds. Any other celebrations across the country?
Yeah, the national one will be happening in Migori. That is where the government is. We also have senior WHO dignitaries who are commemorating with us. It's something that as a country we need to be proud of. That's because of the tobacco-free farms that we're embracing. But in Nairobi, we also have our World No Tobacco Day celebration. It will be happening at the Kenya National Theatre. It's actually happening as we speak at the Kenya National Theatre. We held a very vibrant sort of activity with the artists. We are trying to bring in young people through poetry, through dance, through music, and they're trying to spread the same message. Grow food, not tobacco. And we are happy about that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chengo Otieno, for gracing our show today. And like you've heard it, today's World No Tobacco Day theme is "We need food, not tobacco," like you've said as well. And like you heard from Mr. Otieno, is that the world celebrations will be marked today in the country in Migori County, and that is where as well the World Health Organization, in conjunction with the government and groups supporting the discouraging of tobacco consumption in the country, are meeting just to ensure that they can also convince and entice farmers to move away from growing of tobacco to other alternative crops. That is all that we had for you today on the Morning Drift, the 31st day of May 2023. Do stay with us because a lot is lined up for you, and like I always say, you can read our stories on www.lookuptv.co.ke just to get updated or be updated on whatever is happening across the